Well, thanks everybody for joining us with Rise Capital. We are here to provide free investing education because when we first got started down this road to retire early on passive income, I don't really feel like we had a lot of resources. And so we want to put that out there for you so that you can follow along on our journey to see how we did it, how we're continuing to make it work, and being able to invest in the things that we're investing in. And that's the main focus behind our fund is what we're investing in to live a passive income early retirement lifestyle. We wanted to put that out there for our friends and family and people to be able to enjoy. So we created a portal. We put everything that we're investing in on there, and you can log in, look at that, and invest in the deals that make sense for you and your goals. So that's what we do here at Rise Capital.
Well, I think it's good for us to we started this Relax with Rise to make it more of a conversational platform versus doing a webinar, which is fully intense and educational. However, we just wanted to share kind of some of our stories and what helped us start investing, so that maybe if that applies to you or if that's something you're interested in, you can feel free to reach out to us. So Emma, maybe you want to start in maybe just a little bit how you got started in investing. And then our topic that today is about diversifying your income through your retirement accounts.
There are several $1 trillion in retirement accounts in the United States, and we have a small percentage of that, which still amounts to what, something like several billion, $100 billion of IRA money that people don't even know they have, like lost IRA money. And being able to pull that out of your traditional IRA and being able to push that over into a self-directed is really the focus of what we're talking about today, because it allows you to have more cash to be able to invest. So I put a video out recently about talking about how people are looking for passive income, but they're saying, oh, I don't have any money to invest. And what they're really saying is, I want a business that's hands off. And that's very different from passive income, passive investing, because passive investing starts with money. A job is where we trade our time and then we get paid money. But passive investing is where we trade our money to get our time back. So it's investing our money, making our money work for us so that we can then enjoy the benefits of that with other people who are going to run the actual business, other people who are going to run the properties, and we put our cash in and then we're just able to enjoy the profits. It's very similar to a dividend paying stock where you put your money in, you don't go to the office, you don't show up at the meetings, you don't vote. You just get the distributions into your bank account when they come out. So that's really how it is to be able to live on passive income. And so the more money you have to invest, the more you will be able to live off that passive income. And that's the goal for retirement, whether it's at 65 or you want to retire early. Having enough money invested passively so that you can not work is really how this whole equation goes together. So we got started very similarly where we had a layoff that was a big wake-up call. And at the time, we were just doing well to be able to pay our mortgage and have an emergency fund. We didn't have any debt. We thought we were doing everything right. But as soon as we lost that job, my part-time business was not enough to cover our expenses. And it was pretty scary that we were going to have to dig into this emergency fund with really no major stream of income. It was very, very small second stream of income. And so when we finally found a job and moved across country and I left my business behind, I felt like that business wasn't even that great because I was hustling and I wasn't even really making that much money. And so here's the message that I give to entrepreneurs now. It's, how are you spending your time in the way that's going to make the most money so that you can then invest more money so you can retire earlier and be able to work a job that you love, that's a passion project like this fund is for us now. So when we moved from Austin to Salt Lake City, one of the first things I did was start attending business networking meetings. And I showed up at one that I felt like it was a little bit of a bait and switch because they invited me to a meeting and it was supposed to be about business networking, but it was one of those, hey, if you run to the back of the room with your credit card and spend a couple $10,000, then you can get this amazing real estate investing education. And I was pretty upset because I was thinking about starting a business as a small business consultant, helping people with their social media marketing, how to balance their books, just all the stuff that small business owners just don't know how to do. Because of my experience in entrepreneurial management and in tech startups, I felt like that was really needed. So I showed up at this networking meeting thinking I was going to meet massage therapists and chiropractors and people like that who needed some help running their small businesses. Instead, it was a run to the back of the room. So I went home and I was a little upset. So I looked up the meeting And an article about the group came up on Bigger Pockets, or a forum post came up on Bigger Pockets. And so I started reading, and I noticed that they were talking about the National Real Estate Investors Association and various groups and ways to get educated and ways to network. And here was this whole free forum, this very low cost RIA. And I was just really impressed with the quality of the stuff that they were putting out, and felt like, well, I'm not going to spend $20,000 to go and learn how to do this when I haven't even exhausted the free or low cost options that things like the RIAs and the Bigger Pockets offered. And so, but there was something that was said at that real estate education meeting that was incredibly valuable to me, because I'm sitting in the back of the room with my arm folded, kind of being a little bit grumpy, like, why am I still here? And he said, how many of you have an IRA? And a bunch of us raised our hands. And he said, how many of you have a self-directed IRA? And I was like, well, I raised my hand because I can invest my IRA. I log on, and it asks me if I want this fund or that fund, and I can allocate it on there. So I thought that that's what self-directed meant. And so afterwards, when I got home, I was like, well, how can I invest my IRA in real estate, like what that guy at this meeting was talking about? Because when I log on to see that it's only a bunch of mutual funds and things like that, and I can't actually invest in real estate. So I was poking around with my IRA, and that's when I realized like self-directed was more like with a capital S. It was actually a different kind of retirement account that I did not have. And so I wasn't able to invest in real estate. So I went down that rabbit hole of learning. And that's really that's what got me turned on to real estate investing, because we were selling our house. And so I knew we had some cash coming in. We were selling our house in Texas, and we didn't need all that money to put a down payment on our new house in Utah. And so I had that chunk of cash coming in, but then I started looking at that retirement account thinking like, oh, there's money in there and I can invest that. I wasn't really impressed with the performance of it. And so I started going down that rabbit hole. I realized there is an entirely different world of self-directed IRAs that I didn't know anything about until this offhanded comment at this event that I was at. So we can kind of tell the story about what that looked like once I figured out what it was, and I went through that process to liquidate our traditional and get it moved over to self-directed. It was not a fast process. So if you want to use it to invest and you're excited to get investing, this should be one of the very first things that you do to free up capital. You don't have to know what you're going to invest it in, because it takes a couple of weeks to maybe up to 2 months to get it converted. And so by the time you have that sitting and ready to go, you'll have gone through that process where you're identifying an investment. So it's really important to get started on this early on in your investing journey.
Yeah, and I feel like, whenever you do go to these conferences or webinars or attend lives like these, it might not be something totally new to you or maybe something you already knew before, but you just needed that little reminder, or it just hit you at that right point in time to make you, take action or question or look at your options. And so for me, just, working at my engineering job and seeing a lot of people, even when they hit their retirement age, didn't end up actually retiring. And so that was like a wake up call for me, because I had been an engineer for 10 years. And I had always like invested in my retirement 401k, but I never even actually knew, I never paid attention to it. It was just like, oh, they're doing an employee match, so I'll just put in whatever they're doing, and then it's just something extra on the side. And so I just told a story as well about how when I left my job, I didn't even think about it. Like, I didn't even occur to me that I should take it out or roll it over or do anything with it. I just kind of left it there. And so it's actually quite common, like you had mentioned, there's like trillions of dollars in retirement funds, but like millions that are in forgotten 401ks. And so for me, it was just important because I left my job in 2020 and it was at 107,000 that I had in that account. I totally forgot about it, started fixing and flipping, doing rentals, and I never really needed the money because I was always, open to other strategies, like using other people's money for my deals, or getting creative strategies, creative financing, but only until I really was, I started scaling and was exhausted kind of all of my resources. I was like, wait a minute, I think I have something, some sort of retirement fund, after another lady had told me she wanted to invest from her retirement. I was like, oh wait, I think I still have one. So I went to go check it out, and there was only like 79,000 at that, like 2 years later. So I basically, didn't even pay attention to it, or didn't even think about it as an investment strategy. But two, I had missed out on being able to leverage that into other investments that I was already making money on. And so I think that's just very important to point out to people is like, yes, even when you're working your job, your retirement is still an investment vehicle that you need to pay attention to. And I think a lot of us get caught up in just, working and hey, when we turn 65, it'll be there. But in reality, it just depends on where the market is at during that time. Because if I was, older and I would wanted to retire on that income, I'd be like, shoot, I just missed out on like 20 grand, or 20, however much money that is. So I think that's important for us. Like we wanted to bring to light that yes, there's retirement funds and they're great investment for those who really are looking at don't want to pay attention to it, but at the same time you could end up actually losing money investing in retirements as well.
And that's a good point. My brother's a developer for Starbucks, and we were talking recently when I was visiting Seattle about the Starbucks gift cards. They are claiming almost $200 million, I think, a year in income from gift cards, and they have something like $1 billion in what's considered interest-free loans because they're front-loaded and they never expire, but most people never actually end up using them. And I was just laughing because I said this is kind of like retirement accounts, because after my dad passed away a few years ago, so both my parents have passed away, and when we were settling out their estate, we found some hidden retirement money that they didn't even know that they had, and my parents were not wealthy, so it was a huge bummer, I guess, to find out that there were some accounts and things, and it wasn't like they had hundreds of thousands of dollars of lost money. But when we bought our most recent investment home, our down payment was only $22,000. And it can go a long way to be able to pick up some new assets, even those smaller amounts of money. So if you're thinking that you've misplaced some money, it's time to get there and look at it. So the process, that's where it starts out, is to identify what accounts you have, and most of them are going to be held at major custodians like Fidelity, Charles Schwab, these types of places. So you just log in, try and go log into any place that you've worked in the past. You cannot convert an existing 401k at a job that you're currently working. It has to be a rollover. So after you've left a job. So that's why it turns to a little bit of an Easter egg hunt. You get to go log in, find your passwords, recover your passwords, and log into everywhere you think that you held a job before. So if one was at Fidelity and the other was Charles Schwab, then you need to just go hunt that down and just check them just in case. You might even not have remembered. So you log into there, you identify your accounts, and you decide how much of it you want to allocate over to become self-directed. It doesn't have to be the entire thing, because we really are proponents of diversified investing. And so if you have some money that you want to keep in play in the stock market, you just kind of have to decide, like, how much do I want to keep in the stock market versus how much do I want to self-direct, especially if you're feeling a little bit nervous about the conversion. You just have to set up the account. You don't have to fund it, every bit of it, right away. So you can start moving money over in increments as you feel comfortable, or as you find investments that you like and you're feeling more comfortable doing a more diversified play. So we knew that we had this 401k that was basically turning into a rollover after he was laid off in 2017. And we reached out to a custodian. There's a list online. If you look it up, there's something like 150 something custodians in the United States who can hold these self-directed retirement accounts. And there are 3 main brokers, and everybody else is a third party under that. And you're going to choose somebody based on the amount of customer service that they have and the type of fees that they're going to charge. Some people will charge you just a flat fee for a year, which can be pretty high. So if you don't have that much invested, let's say it's less than $250,000 or less than $500,000, the flat fee might actually be the more expensive option. But once it starts growing, the flat fee could be cheaper. And so you may want to be able to change and look at that fee structure occasionally and just make sure that you're getting the best deal possible. Most of them will charge you assets under management fee. So based on how much asset you have in the account is what fee that they're going to charge you. And so again, if you have a low amount of assets, that might actually be a better option. And as your retirement grows, you may want to look into switching that. So the top 3 are, I think it's Horizon, Equity, and I'd have to look them up. I forgot. I looked them up right before we started. I already forgot. So we're with Horizon Trust. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. That's just the one that we found that had the best customer service and the fee structure that worked for us. Although we did look at a lot of others, like as we were in Utah, the Bank of Utah will administer them. There were 3 or 4 others in that area that we could look at. And we just decided to go with the one that was most responsive, answered our questions. They seemed like they specialized in it. Some of the people we talked to, they were like, yeah, we do that. But I didn't really get the sense that they were going to be good guides to me, because the first time I do something, I really want somebody who's going to be like a teacher and a guide to me. Then once I learn what I'm doing, I don't really feel like I need that much hand holding. But at the beginning, I really wanted somebody who knew what they were doing. And so once we had chosen a custodian, we had to call Fidelity and have them liquidate our account. And here's where the friction started, because the guy at Fidelity, the kid who answered my call, had never heard of this and was really cautioning us against getting involved in a scam, because we were basically liquidating our retirement account. We were going to have all these taxes and penalties and fees and these difficult things, and we're going to go invest it in something that wasn't eligible in our IRA, and we were going to get scammed. So he was trying to talk us out of it. And I don't know if that's just because of ignorance that he had, or ignorance that his company wanted to make sure that they had, because the more they knew about it, the more they could help. It's not really great. And the reason I think that this happens, in my opinion, is about liquidity. So when you're in a stock market investment, mutual funds, or a REIT, something like this, you are going to be able to pull your money out at any time for any reason. Even if you're in a retirement account, you could completely do that. You're just going to get penalties and fees, but they're very liquid investments and you can move them around all you want. But pretty much everything else is not considered to be liquid, other than, say, cash, right? And so you're going to invest it in a rental house, and that becomes illiquid. You have to sell the house or maybe refinance it in order to getting that cash out. So that's considered an illiquid investment. And during retirement, having a lot of illiquid investments, I guess somebody in the government at one point decided that they wanted our retirement accounts to be very liquid. And so that's why stocks, bonds, and those associated funds are approved, and really nothing else is. But if you look at self-directed retirement accounts, something like 92% of them are invested in real estate. So it's a huge, huge draw. And a lot of people want to be able to do this, and they don't even realize that they can in their retirement accounts, because it's not in that little list of drop-down menus. So that was the process that we went through. Fidelity finally put us on the phone with somebody who knew how to do the transfer, and we had to assure them that our new custodian was calling and trying to work it out with them. And Fidelity liquidated our accounts at whatever the current value was of the stock. So we did want to wait to sell until we felt like things were stable. We didn't want to feel like we were selling really, really low, but we were anxious to get the money moved so that we could invest it in something that was going to perform a little bit better for us. And then they actually mailed a hard check to our house. And then we took the check down to our bank, and because we opted in for the LLC checkbook control. And the reason that we did that is because we wanted to be able to make investing decisions quickly. And if you have to go through your custodian to release the funds, it could take several weeks, and they're going to ask a lot of check the box kind of questions. When our investors are going through their custodian, we usually advise they give it 3 to 4 weeks to have the funds actually deployed and to be prepared to fill out paperwork more than once. Because if there's slight misspelling or a letter that's off on your name or your LLC name or whatever, you basically have to start over. It can be a frustrating process. And so I don't want to discourage anybody. You just have to allot enough time to be able to move those funds. So that's why we opted for the LLC. So we created our own LLC, opened up a bank account, and then they mailed that check to our house, and we took the check down to our bank and deposited it. And then they put a hold on it because it was enough money that it got like a 15-day hold, and we were new customers. And so then we had to wait another 2 weeks for it to actually become available in our account before we could invest it in anything. And all the while, the investment that I had identified was calling me like, hey, is that ready to go? Is that ready to go? Because they were closing on a house that I was becoming a first lien lender on, and they needed to know if that was available. So just make sure you allot enough time for the transfer to actually happen. So that's a little bit of the nuts and bolts on how we actually made it happen and some of the reasons why we decided to do that. And then Sasha, can you maybe share your story about when you first discovered this and converted yourself over as well?
Yeah, so for me, I went the solo 401k route because for that specific retirement account, you can be own your own company but have no employees. So again, we are just sharing our stories. Check with your retirement specialist about your own specific situations. However, it was pretty simple. And so for me, because I had that existing 401k, the same thing, it was with Fidelity. closed it out. They mailed me a check. And then I ended up putting that towards a solo 401k that I had opened up. And the reason that I wanted to do it that route versus a self-directed IRA was that I can contribute more as a business owner. So I did that last year in 2022, and I was able to contribute, I think like 20,000 as an employee. And then my business itself could contribute, like, I think it was around 40,000. So a total of 60,000 of contributions that we got as a write-off as well. Or I'm not sure if that's the correct terminology, but we basically got to take it off our taxable income. And that was huge for me because I had a high active income. And so that's something that people should realize too, is that the investment strategies that you implement could help you tax wise as well. But like I mentioned before, everybody's specific situations are different. So check with your CPA and retirement specialist. It took me probably a couple months going back and forth with both of my those professionals that I had on my team in order to really decipher, okay, what's the best route for me in my specific situation. And my husband is also a business owner, so he went the self-directed IRA route because that worked best for his situation. But it was pretty smooth, and now you can keep track of it online and then invest it as you see fit. And always, of course, I always check with my accountant or the retirement specialist that I'm in contact with and ask them, like, hey, does this apply? What's the best tax strategy for this? Okay, should I move it here? And so I think really having those key people on your team will help you keep educated and be making the best decisions for yourself instead of wondering or like, oh, is it a scam? Or, there are a lot of people who follow the path, which of course we veered from that and we're thinking outside the box. But we honestly, having more control and ownership over your time, money, investments has been what's helped us be able to scale and live the life that we want. Like Emma just came back from traveling, like doing a huge hike for a few months. For me, I get to travel whenever I want and bring my family and not worry about concerns about, finances or anything like that. And it's really because we took control and ownership over our finances and investments.
Yeah, we really wanted to retire before 50. That has been a huge goal of mine for decades. And when we turned 40 and I just kind of stopped thinking about it, stopped talking about it because it just seemed like it was never going to happen, right? And when I got really intentional about it, when I actually started to believe again that this was not only just some dream, but they had a plan to be able to reach that, the IRA is what really factored into our ability to think in those terms, because it gave us more money to be able to really focus in on invest for the lifestyle that we wanted. And so because we wanted to retire early, we can't get to the cash until we're 59 and a half that's in our retirement accounts. So we have opted only to invest what was already in the account. And when my husband got his new W-2 that he worked out from 2018 to 2022, so 5 years there, they had a 401k matching program. And so we contributed the match. And so here's where the technicalities of figuring out your situation come into it, because in our situation, because they were doing a match and he was still a W-2 employee, we wanted to contribute to the Roth 401k. So our contributions went into a Roth account and the match went into a 401k account. Just a traditional kind of an IRA through that 401k plan. And so we had two different accounts. So when we went to go roll them over, we had two of them. And they asked, do you want to roll it over to a Roth SD IRA and a traditional SD IRA? Or do you want to open up a solo 401k? Because when he was laid off in 2022 and we were becoming self-employed, we were then qualified, or I was self-employed the whole time, qualified for the solo 401k. And so here's the thing to ask yourself, the question of when you are getting tax advantages in your retirement account, is it important to have tax advantages in what you invest in? And for me, the answer was no. I didn't want to invest in something that had a lot of depreciation like most multifamily apartment buildings, because I wasn't able to recognize the value of that depreciation through a retirement account because it's already tax advantage. So it's not you can't like double up like that. And so for me, the solo 401k became the question of there's another There's another kind of tax, colloquially referred to as the UBIT tax, that if you're in a traditional IRA, when that investment is supported by debt, which real estate has mortgages on it, most of it's supported by debt, there's a tax that you have to pay when you're basically taking that out of the market when you sell that asset. But through a solo 401k, you don't have to pay that tax. And so solo 401ks tend to make more sense if you can possibly be considered self-employed with either some kind of a side hustle, whether it's full-time or part-time. You could qualify for solo 401k. And then again, your contributions are higher and you don't have to pay that tax when you sell something that's supported by debt. And so for us, that didn't really make sense because we didn't want to contribute anymore to our accounts because we lost that employer match. We're self-employed full-time. We don't want any more money locked up in there. We retired early. We need to be investing now, cash, so we can get at it now. And so the options that we chose were really customized to the lifestyle that we wanted to live with early retirement and being self-employed. So what we put into our retirement account now are things that yield a little bit higher because we have to wait to get it, so higher yield stuff, or things that don't have any tax advantages at all, like interest income. So when we're doing private notes, we can do some of those through our retirement account because interest income doesn't have any tax advantages, but if we do it through our retirement account, it does. And so being able to decide what types of investments and what type of account is best suited to you, your lifestyle, your income, if it's W-2, self-employed, all of that is really important. That's why it's important to talk to a professional that can help guide you through that. Somebody who knows what they're talking about and isn't just somebody who's like, yeah, we've done this before, kind of.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge thing to remember, is just doing what works best for you. And your retirement shouldn't just be something that's just on the side and you never think about. But and we're definitely at different stages in our life. But I feel like those people that just start working or are like 10 plus years in, you just forget about it. So I think it's just good to be educated and then also just leverage it, right? You can take, like you mentioned, you don't have to use it all to leverage into a different investment. Try just to see how it works with whatever you feel comfortable using.
Mm-hmm. And we have an investor right now who's kind of working through this process, and she's finding herself often angry. She's struggling with the angry feelings that all these years she's had this stuff sitting in an IRA or 401k plans and not really getting great returns on it. And she doesn't want to liquidate from the stock market, but she has enough in there that she can probably even do 50% into real estate, 50% stay in the stock market, and feel like she's doing better on her returns and also getting better tax incentives, tax results from just being a little bit more creative. And this is why they call it self-directed. Honestly, I know that a lot of us want to just put money in and set it and forget it. But the more specialized and the more interest you take in your financial future, if this is really important, then you're going to be more successful because you're going to start finding out these things. And her anger reflects that, finding out these things many years later when she could have been doing this at a younger age. And now she's realizing that she missed out on her time. So just take it slow. It's a process. There's no reason to have to hurry through it or jump through it. Just recognize that these things are there. And little by little, as you learn about it, you can start to implement things that make sense for you and your situation and start to just broaden your world about what you can invest in, how you can invest in it, how that affects your taxes and how that affects your retirement plan and your timeline. You may not want to retire at 50. You may want to retire at 55 or 60. It really just depends. And then you can make those decisions based on how far out you are from retirement.
Well, and real estate is exciting. I have never been this excited about any sort of investment. And I think because we're passionate about it too, and we've seen results, that we just want to share our stories. But like recently, we just got, we have an investment that's an RV park. And I love RV parks. I just like the aspect of it. It's in the fishing city. I mean, I live on Maui.
Yeah.
And so we're surrounded by the ocean. It's very different. That's more of a lake style one. But I like to invest in things that are, of course, make sense, but also that are kind of fun, like different, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I really understand real estate in a way that I don't want to say I don't understand business, because I love business. I'm an entrepreneur. I geek out and talk about business all day long. But following the businesses to make stock decisions, I probably could have gotten my head wrapped around it if I thought that anything I did there would have any effect on the outcome of my investments. I feel like you have very few experts. Warren Buffett, less than 10%, so something like 7% of active managers can beat the stock market. And I knew that was not me. I wasn't that into it. I just didn't feel like I was going to, and most people who try to actively manage actually do worse than the index. And to me, that was incredibly demotivating. But real estate, I get it. It's a house, a property. I can touch it. I can do something to it, fix it up, many different business plan options. And my knowledgeable and active management can dramatically impact the return that I'm getting on that investment. So that's part of the reason that I think it's exciting, and I feel like that I'm more empowered to be able to take my financial future, my financial freedom, and my retirement into my own hands, because it's finally something that I can mold and do something with, instead of feeling just powerless against just the free market in the S&P 500 or the total market. So that's one of the reasons that we've decided to make this shift. Probably 60 to 80% of our portfolio is in various kinds of real estate now for that reason, because we just have more direct control over it the more we learn. So there are a couple of caveats with the self-directed IRA that I think we do need to mention. It cannot be invested in a project that you substantially manage. And so it makes a great option to be able to finally kind of take that jump into being a limited partner, where it's just purely passive income coming in. There are, again, exceptions, a lot of details, a lot of fine print to be able what you can invest in and how much you can be an owner on that project or director on that project. But for the most part, it's something that you need to turn over to somebody else. You can own the property, but you cannot manage it. So you have to have a property manager and maintenance. You can't go over and do any of the work yourself. So it makes more sense sometimes to put those things either out of state or to invest in some sort of a syndication where you're truly limited partner, because of the rules that you can't do any self-dealing, like your family can't live in the house. There are some other restrictions. You just need to make sure that you're not doing prohibited transactions. Certain types of assets you can't invest in at all. And the way that you're managing those assets has to be compliant. Otherwise, it's seen as taking your money out of your retirement account early. So just bear that in mind. And that's why we love talking about retirement accounts so much, is because we are here to provide opportunities for passive investors to become limited partners in deals. And the retirement account is just a perfect vehicle to jump into those, because you can't manage your own stuff through your retirement account anyway. So it makes a nice partnership that we can put together between what we do and most people who are looking for a passive income.
Yes. And I think for me too, the whole word passive, right, is that you want to invest in something. I mean, just like how you were working, you weren't paying attention. But like you mentioned, with real estate, I feel like you have more control over the value of what you're investing in. And so that has been huge. And there's other things that you can implement along the way. And it's a physical, tangible asset that even if, God forbid, it burned down, there's still insurance or something like that. Where in the stock market, I mean, even in 2020, when I was watching the news all the time and the world shut down, I was trying to, buy stocks and trade them and do all sorts of things because, everybody was at home. But then I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, this is fully dependent on the market and I have no real control over it. And so that was a light bulb moment. But maybe you want to just share, while we quickly wrap this up, just a little bit about our current investment opportunity that we have.
Yeah, we've got an RV park, like Sasha mentioned. It's on a lake fork in Alba, Texas, just outside of Dallas, and it is a recreational fishing community. So it's a long-term RV park, meaning that people come and they stay for at least 30 days, usually 60 to 90 days for a season of fishing. And it's a great part of the country where there's something to do year-round, and it's pretty much occupied all the time. I think there's only, one slot that's available for nightly or weekly. It also has a couple of smaller houses on the property that are being rented out in kind of a midterm rental. And then you also have some self-storage units. There are 14 of those, a building on the property, and then a storefront that is rented out to somebody who's running a bait shop and like a convenience store at the front of the park. And so it's just one of those things that we look for that just spins off cash flow, pretty easy business plan. There's not a lot of major improvements that need to be done or that we're planning on doing, a few little things here and there. And so we're actively raising capital for that right now. We will be closing in 2 weeks. maybe 3 weeks, because we got some holidays coming up, don't we? It's that time of year where you're starting to say, let's circle back after the holidays. So it'll be closing sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas, depending on how that goes. And so we are open to accredited investors. If you want to find out more about it, jump on partnerwithrise.com, which is basically what we have right there. It'll take you over to our website. You click on Invest Now and set up a call with us. We can walk you through all of the details, get you set up on our portal so that you can start to transact. And we put all of our deals up on the portal. We should be getting a new one once a month or so, and you only ever have to sign up for it once. And so after that, it's just, if you see something you like, you can allocate some money to it and just keep checking back, and we'll let you know when there are new deals on there. So that's a pretty easy process to go through. But the first time, it's kind of like getting your IRA converted over from your traditional over to your self-directed. It's a little bit of a process to get set up originally. And so you want to make sure that you have that taken care of so that you're not missing out on deals as they come up. If you see something you like, it's important to be able to jump on it, because these things can move quickly. It's like hurry up and wait. It takes a while, then all of a sudden it's time to go. So you just want to make sure that you're poised and ready to go. If you need help converting over your self-directed IRA, obviously just reach out to us and we can put you in touch with some of the people who've helped us with that. Make some non-affiliated referrals if you need some help that way, or just share our story with you. We're not professionals, we're not giving financial advice, but we can definitely put you in touch with the people who helped us through the process, and we can help you through the process of getting invested, because this is the kind of stuff that we invest in. So we're investing personally our own money in these deals. And again, we just wanted to open up the portal for people who want to retire early and they want to live that passive income lifestyle. Like, this is what we're doing in order to make that happen. And enough people were asking us about it. We felt like, let's just open up a fund and open up these investments to everybody that is interested in this kind of lifestyle. So appreciate you guys tuning in today and learning about it. Again, reach out with any questions about the RV park or your self-directed IRA. And we are here to provide you education you need in order to get your financial dreams reality.
Thank you.